Hello, everyone. I know that it's kind of challenging, to have a panel discussion while there is a competition of startups happening next door. But I hope that those who are with us will get some interesting insights from this conversation. So we had the introduction, but I would like to give a bit of background for all of you, so that those who are here and watching us can know more about your background. And I think that will help us to understand also your kind of impact and the effect that you have on the topic that we are talking about. So I will start from Lusine, and Lusine is an ECG expert specializing in carbon footprint management, and actually being the expert in Envirly, she's providing the insights and recommendations for the developers of the platform, and the platform is actually a carbon footprint management and calculation platform. I think that we will have a chance to discuss it a bit in details. So Chinmay, it's nice to see you. Yesterday I had a chance to talk to to the co-founder of the company. Actually Chinmay is the chief of staff in ecoLocked, and ecoLocked is turning buildings into carbon sinks. I like that. Actually what's interesting that you have a huge kind of background in telecom and in the industry. I think that would be also an interesting perspective, and now how you're using that kind of background in the company that you're building. And Dominique. Dominique is the CEO of XtreeE, and has a huge background in construction and engineering. And Dominique is an expert in ultra-high performance concrete and seismic engineering, and currently the XtreeE actually is on the mission to deeply transform the construction industry. So I'm happy that you're here, and I think that we will have an opportunity to have a thoughtful discussion on the topic. And so cities are responsible for over 70% of carbon emission, right? And I believe that this is kind of the one of the main goals for the urban tech industry and the companies like yours to actually, improve that, right? And help to kind of reduce the emissions and combat the climate change. And I would like to start this discussion from actually maybe kind of a two-folded question. Firstly, if you could tell more about how the urban tech industry can actually impact the situation and help reducing the carbon emissions, but also about your practical experience and how your companies are actually on the mission, right? Lusine, if we could start from you, it would be nice.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for a nice introduction. Coming back to your question, I think that urban tech companies have a significant role in advancing carbon capture technologies and integrating them into urban life and the environment. What comes to my company, I can say that do that indirectly because we are an ESG reporting platform and company. But at the same time, I think that we are making a very important role by educating our clients and helping them tailor their own way of reduction of carbon. I can share that out of 3 clients that we recommended to implement carbon capture, one of them is at this point thinking about that, and we're working on that. So I think this can be a success.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a great conversion, I would say, right? And I like that you mentioned the education point, right? Because it always starts like in any industry, in any progress, right? It starts from the educating, and the knowledge is the key to understanding how can I actually do an impact and what can I do. And I think that providing the information that can help make that decision is also very important. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. Dominique, maybe we could, yeah.
So thank you for to be invited here for this panel. I will maybe tell a little bit about XtreeE, what
Yeah,
we are,
would be nice.
because you say, okay, they are doing 3D printing. Why they are there? And 3D printing is a technology that you have seen in many different fields. And we try at XtreeE to do it for construction. Basically, we use a large robot, and we work on printing components, structural components. And I've been in the past working in construction. As you know, it's a lot of waste. There's a lot of different components that are done and that using like a lot of cement. So what we try to work on at XtreeE, providing the hardware and the software, is to really reduce actually the consumption of CO2 and on different ways. The first one is basically to work on the geometry. So we work on reducing like the Eiffel Tower in steel, but doing that with concrete, just reducing actually the content of material by excavating actually all the structures. So that's the first thing we do. And the second one is to develop actually something that will be not using molds, will be reducing a lot of waste, because as we work in 3D, we are, in terms of quality, everything is digitalized. We can't do it without digitalization. And last but not least, and it really relates on the subject of today, it's about using low carbon type of materials and enhancing the strength of the material. A lot of material that I use, especially concrete, is actually not optimized at all. So using actually 3D printing, you can actually put at the end of a nozzle a mixture that will be twice more powerful in terms of strength compared to the similar concrete you will have in a classical building. So when you add all that, and when you do like very strict computation, you gain something like 60 to 70% just by doing that in terms of CO2 emission. But at XtreeE, our mission is really to go beyond that, and we are looking at all the possibilities of substituting, and that's where carbon capture is important. That's where actually we are working on using a technology like biochar, for instance, in substituting some components using the right biochar that have the right capacity into the mix to basically compensate the remaining cement that we still have to put in our mixture. And at the end, you get actually mixtures that could be net zero, neutral, and even actually some of them are negative. So that's what we try to do, and by using as less material as possible, as less biochar, because it's also something that won't be, we won't have like so much of it at the end of the day. So trying to reduce as much the carbon footprint, really through multiple levels.
Great. So it's kind of, multiple levels mean kind of, go in the whole chain, right? And ecoLocked, right? So if you could start from more generic approach, so generally, right, the companies around you and your company in particular.
Yeah, for sure. So, is it working?
I guess so.
Okay. So, yeah, for sure. So, basically, when you think of urban tech, there are three components of emissions, right? So, we have infrastructure, we have bio-related emissions, you have energy consumption. And we at ecoLocked are basically tackling the number 2 and the number 3 of it, which is using the bio waste to convert it into biochar. And as you were saying, basically adding biochar into concrete to be able to sequester that permanently. And essentially what that means is that the buildings themselves turn into carbon sinks, as you pointed out, and we give biochar basically carbon utilization and sequestration use case, which is also very important, because yes, there isn't enough biochar right now available, but bio waste is abundant, which means if we give a strong enough end use case for biochar, that means we also help push that industry further. We also help grow and make sure that the bio waste is not treated in a poor way and is essentially released back into atmosphere. So that's sort of our mission and that's our vision.
Thank you. I would like to move.
May I add?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
sure.
Because you talked from the practical side.
Yeah.
I can talk from the side of reporting. You know, when you talked about the cement and emissions, this is what we deal with our clients during LCA. You know, and I agree that construction is one of the biggest emitters, unfortunately, after mining and others. So yeah, if you could like do that, we can definitely recommend that mixture to our clients.
Great. So collaboration happening. Yeah, that's a great one. So I would like to ask to talk a bit more about like how the technological innovations, right, and different strategies that exist that are already proving to be really effective in capturing and reducing emission with urban environments. From your experience, from what you see, what you work with, so what would be the examples that you would share? Maybe, yeah, we could start, yeah.
Yeah, I can maybe kick it off. But yeah, so the technologies that we typically see for carbon capture are, you always see DAC, so direct air capture. You see biomass, biochar related technology. You have the BECS or the bioenergy related technologies. Those are sort of the three main segments over there. The interesting thing with, I think, all of them, especially in an urban tech context, is that these things need to get modularized and decentralized quickly, because at the moment we have essentially large plants trying to capture, store, utilize carbon, but in an urban environment where we have buildings that are emitting carbon, or we want to capture that carbon immediately, the next step there would be sort of decentralization of that. And I think what you touched upon about just being a practical solutions is also interesting, because we also need to do it quickly, right? So sort of finding that right balance between right technology and finding the right balance between what we can do in next 5-7 years rather than 20 years from now is important.
Yeah, like you were the co-founder of ecoLocked mentioned, yes, the urgency, the urgency of the topic. We definitely have to keep it in mind, because it's great to find the solutions, but it's also great to practically, implement them into the
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, thank you. Dominique.
I was thinking there that it's about a change of mindset. And I think the previous panel was really addressing that as well, is about retrofitting. And a lot of people think about construction as new buildings. Even with 3D printing, I see a lot of people like, okay, we can build new houses, but it's not the point, actually. The point is actually to be able actually to digitize what is already existing and to take the opportunity of utilizing what is there and to just take care of it, clearly take care of it, and just adding what is necessary. And this concept of frugality is very, very important. If we want to win this battle, it starts to be frugal and to build better and get something that will be no more on the volumes, but more on the information. So that work on digitization of everything that we could actually save and enhance, I think is key. And what we try to do with 3D printing technology and what we observe is that basically our key clients are the ones that are, because we have now 15 factories over the world and printing, and those partners, the ones that have most of the success are the ones that are doing sacrificial formwork, that are doing bespoke solution for retrofitting, which I think is incredibly optimistic in terms of gives optimism to everybody here, because it's not just about putting new concrete there, or it's about taking the best of something that has been already existing. So that's what is happening, and it makes me very optimistic about the future, because it's about digitalizing. So for sure there are hurdles, but already now we have a lot of technologies that are really booming, improving in terms of 3D scan that we can clearly put into our software very easily now. So
that's a great one. Like using what we already have, right? Improving what we already have before we just build something new and create something new. Thank you. Lusine, what about you?
Yeah, I can totally agree with what Dominique said, because this is actually part of smart cities, right? Using these technologies, not only to monitor, because nowadays many, not only companies, but let's say people, we monitor it, but do nothing with the results. So it's not only about monitoring, but doing that as well. And for innovations, I would say that, for example, for me, what is important is pre-combustion, so capturing carbon before it has been released, not after, because we can get it more, and mineralization of carbon, because we can make solids and use it in construction and other fields, right? So this is the most important for me.
That's a good one, not just to reduce, but also to have the ways to actually reuse what is already created. We see that there is a kind of already a pretty immense, I would say, progress of the technologies that are building the carbon emission, and what do you think should be done in terms of the in terms of policies, because we know that this is one of the important kind of pieces to match in terms of the policies to move it even further and to boost it even more efficiently, and what you see is happening that already is done, and what you think could be done and probably is not still happening, and you would advise also to kind of pay attention to that as well. So maybe Dominique, you could start this time.
So in terms of policies, what is really key, it's the certification part. So at this stage, we can print a lot of materials, but the certification is always painful. So usually we are able actually to do things that will be formwork, sacrificial ones, that we'll put into the structures, but we can't do yet structures with the new material, including biochar, that we are using. So that step is key. And what is interesting and what we are observing at our little scale is that I would have thought that European Union will have been actually the best place for certification. But actually what is happening is that because our technology is kind of agnostic on material, agnostic on robots, it's technology that is used by many universities and certification bodies. The certification bodies that are buying it are Switzerland and United States. And at this stage, that's kind of, for us here, we're in Europe, and we're like, okay, what is happening is that the US, they are far quicker in actually getting this into real life. And I found that interesting that we are developing some of the concepts in Europe, and at the end of the day, it's really the US that is actually taking the benefit of it, because they see, and that's why it's also an optimistic note here, is that they see that it's actually bringing value and it's economically viable. So it's important that in terms of policies, we don't look too much, circling is go to actions, go to pilots. So that's really key for us in Europe to be really in, and not to lose actually to lose what we have potentially created. We are in Paris, and our machines they go to the US. So.
Yeah, that's really kind of losing the opportunity, right? Just giving away the opportunity to the country that is faster or more keen on I would say, taking away the barriers, right? Lusine, what would you add?
I would add that we need not only regulations on paper, but in act, because this is the main problem in environmental field. But coming back to carbon capture, I think at this stage we need governmental support, because unfortunately it's very pricey for companies to turn into that, so we need governmental funds for it. And I think that governments and private sector should work with researchers to make it work better and to reduce the cost of it for future.
Chinmay?
Yeah, I totally agree with Dominic about certification. We see that as well. It just takes too much time. It's kind of slow. But if you also think of from urban tech's perspective, I think from purely from carbon capture's viewpoint, I think we need more and more cities to commit to net zero. I was reading somewhere that I think of I think 1,000 or 1,100 biggest cities, only 28 or 29% have committed to some kind of net zero targets. The rest haven't. So you definitely need that push come from cities, and that would hopefully would lead to more green public procurement. That will hopefully lead to markets that are a little bit more protected for new technologies and can actually sort of bring the innovation that is needed. So it's so definitely we need policies that can push this. The other aspect of this is the fact that EU-wide or at a national or state-wide, there are policies out there, right? So you have Fit for 55, or as you said with the carbon credit, there was this Carbon Credit Transparency Act that was, I think, passed last week or 2 days ago. So EU-wide the policies are happening, but somehow those policies are not sort of matching with realities of the city. So there is still that gap, and whenever I talk to somebody who's like a city official, unfortunately, carbon capture sequestration is not top of their agenda in a lot of cases.
Well, actually, that was my follow-on question about the cities, and because we're talking about urban tech, right? And it's clear that it's nice to develop new technologies, nice to develop to work on innovation, but if it's connected with the cities, right? So it should be connected with the cities. So you've mentioned your experience, right? Dominique, maybe you could share what experience you had probably with the cities, or that you see. Is a potential there that could help, to push this kind of innovation and advance them further?
Yeah, and to relate also to your previous question, what is happening now is that there is a drastic change in the way that, especially architects have to build within the cities because the regulations have changed, thermal regulations. So you have actually, and that's where we are good in Europe or in France at least, to put like big rules that are creating this huge pool about new solutions. Sometimes we have difficulties to make the certification happening, but at least we put those big regulations. And now the cities are changing. They are changing because you can't build like before. So this is coming. It's not possible to build because of a law and because economically and also related actually to taxes. For instance, the price of cement in the next 10 years will double because of there will be no more actually compensation that the cement players had in the past. So it will literally double. So economically, other solutions will come into the equation as affordable, because at the end of the day, we have also to think about the affordability, about how to live in the cities. So that's where in this equation, new will become less, retrofit will become more, and I think the role of the architects and the urban planner is drastically changing because it's adding complexity to the work. Because when you work on a white page compared to have actually something that is already existing that you have to adapt for, it's not as easy. So I think this is a great opportunity as well for new jobs, new service, a full new ecosystem, and a full new startups and people working around that question of the existing environment and how to live better in cities. Because as well there are a lot of other than just the CO2. There is a lot of other impact in the cities that we have to work on.
Thank you, Lusine.
Well, I think I would come from another side of the question. Like for challenges, again, I would mention again the cost, because unfortunately this is a key factor for that. And for opportunities, by the way, I read the statistics the other day that at this point we have 19 installations working, and there is which capture 25 million tons of CO2 at this stage, and they are adding 4 more, which will increase to 40 million CO2 tons. So it sounds really optimistic, so I hope we'll come to that. But again, this is all on the paper, and we have to work now, each in our field. I agree with Dominique, because it's not only the general problem, it's problem of technically each of us. We're living in a city, and city is one of the biggest emitters of CO2.
In terms of the working together, but probably you could share some of your experiences of the collaborations, either with some organizations or startups from your ecosystem or other ecosystems, whether that you experienced working with your company or you see that are working and are really efficient in the ecosystems around you. So Chinmay, maybe you could start.
Yeah, I think collaboration is definitely the key, because I don't think there's going to be one solution that's going to solve all the problems. So for startups across different tech stacks to work together, like if you look at cement and concrete industry, for example, right? The cement decarbonization technologies stacked on top of what we are doing, which is in biochar, can make it carbon neutral, even carbon negative. And essentially that is going to be the key, because having just one solution trying to solve the problem it's just too big of a problem to solve with one solution. Just like for an example, we are now working with a number of startups who are sort of up and down this value chain to exactly do this. And what we found out is that there is a high degree of complementarity there. So the vision is similar, and as long as the technologies work together, and in a lot of cases, especially with our technology, we have seen that they seem to work together pretty well. That is sort of the path forward there.
Thank you. Dominique.
Yeah, so for our little example at XtreeE 7 years ago, I think we were almost the first one to do 3D printing for construction. So we had to do everything. So we were battling and spending a lot of time. But what is happening now is that there's many other people that have the same, feeling, conviction, that wants to be on that mission to reduce CO2, and it helps actually to do the collaboration. And for us, it makes us just to go on where we are good, and we can really collaborate with others that are better than us. So that's why we have changed our model, just to be really on the where we are good at, really on the hardware and the software. And get actually our partner, our customers ready to look on the usage and to work with also on the material. We were thinking that we will design our material to sell it. I said, no, we will enable the possibility to print as many material as possible to just have the biggest scope possible and to get as many new type of material. And that's where actually people that were doing biochar came to us. And I think that's great. Because right now we are in this moment where everybody wants to have an impact and want to make a change. This is a great moment for collaborations, and collaborations are happening, and that's where everybody has really to think that you can't solve a problem by yourself alone. It has to be done with several people and to connect, and that's where with this approach, it's no more necessary to try to fight alone for the entire thing. And then collaboration, like event like today, they help. I'm sure we'll have a discussion now on biochar just after the panel. So that's great. So collaboration are happening because everybody is now, I feel it, getting to the same goal.
So smart city is about being connected, right? So connected to technology, but technologies should be connected as well, and then it just creates a better effect, right? Lusine, what about your?
I can shortly add that I agree with my panelists, and that from my experience, I can say that again, even governments understand that collaboration is a key. That's why technically we have ESRS reports right now, and from my experience in our company, I can say that we had, for example, a request from a client who wanted to understand which cloud emits less. And while I've been researching that topic, I realized that companies are using carbon capture while, cloud companies, you know, and that was really assuring, and I was really happy that they do that, because first of all, they have the sources,
Yes.
and many people, technically we buy the clouds and we invest in their companies, so we are expecting them to emit less. And yeah, this is the example I think that can be used here.
But again, you know, having resources, it's one thing, but also following, like, you know, the right way, that's another thing. And it's really assuring. Agree with you. As we are moving to the end, I would like to together with you to think about actually the future, right, of carbon capture in urban tech, and what could be the transformation changes that it brings to actually the industry, and how this could work in the long term, right? Chinmay, maybe we start from you. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's as we were sort of talking about different technologies already today. I think having different technologies come together in an urban environment is going to be extremely important, and that's sort of where the future will head. In future, I think the infrastructure, which is one of the bigger contributors to emissions in urban environment, should become essentially carbon sponges. So buildings, bridges, infrastructure should be able to capture, store carbon permanently. I saw this concept art by an architect called Som, where they called it urban sequoias, but the whole idea was that they would have these really big buildings that will permanently store carbon, that will have trees within them, that will be able to completely be able to function on renewable energy. So essentially a completely standalone structure, and that is kind of where we will be heading. On top of it, I think one part that we didn't really talk a lot about was the transportation emissions, so emissions that are sort of about transport. So taking the right steps there is also going to be critical. And the panel before this sort of talked a little bit about EV and how that is going to shape the future. I think that is going to play a big role as well.
Thank you. Dominique.
Yeah, so on the topic of the impact of carbon capture, I think I was reading a paper from Peter Odinot. He's kind of the chief strategist in the past for Holcim, the cement player, for all the pricing all over the world. So this guy knows about the numbers. So he knows about the impact of, you know, taxes that will come. And now he's retired, and he was writing about the future and about what will be the impact. He made like a quite dense report about what will be actually the different levels to go to the net zero from an independent point of view. And he was saying that first there is this possibility to optimize actually the processes of producing the cement. And by the way, we can't really build without cement. We can't really even retrofit without cement. So that's a problem. If we could change it with wood, I think that would have been a perfect solution. But we can't, because there is not enough. There's not enough forest to handle the entire construction with wood, for instance. So you need cement. So cement will still be crucial, really crucial in terms of emissions. So how to go to zero? He said 3 levels. One is about reducing the clinker within the mixed design. The other one, and then it could be like 20 to 30%. The second one will be actually to have a better optimization of the processes of construction, basically having less column full of concrete, but try to reduce it like a truss, like this truss here, like in steel, trying to make it processes and design that will, because now it has a cost, it has a CO2 cost, and it has a euro cost, so we have to do it. So he said, okay, that will come for that. And he said that 1/3 will be carbon capture. So 1/3 of it will be related to carbon capture. And this guy, I can tell you, he was like really like the head of pricing for the entire group of Holcim. So he knows his number. So 30% That's massive. So that's, I think, the order of magnitude that we have to keep in mind to fight this battle. So myself, on my little company doing 3D printing, can work on this truss. I can work on changing the material to make it as strong as possible by reducing water. But I have to work on carbon capture inside my mix to make it happen. If I don't work on it, I'm not going to go to net zero or negative. I have to. So.
Thank you. Lusine, what the future withholds in your mind?
Yeah, I have two things in mind, to be honest. First of all, as a technology, I agree that we need to focus on, for example, as you mentioned, the buildings that absorb carbon, and now we have the technology, and algae farms are developing right now, which is also important. But with all the technologies, it's really great that we're having that progress. I would like to mention that we have to remember about the nature and environment as well, because we're having new technologies which destroy in other ways our environment. So we have to find a balance and try to live, to find, you know, the perfect solution, not something that will destroy from the other angle our planet.
Yeah, so that's kind of, you know, the failures of the systems which are not very well thought through. It's when they do something to improve, and at the same time they just, you know, worsen the situation for the next part. And it's important really to have this holistic approach and vision when you work on the solution. I want, as we will have some time for the questions, I want, before the questions, I had that yesterday with my panelists, and I want to have it today as well, because I think that that's a kind of very good summary, and the opportunity also for you to share your insight or the largest insight or your vision about like the idea about like the carbon emission reduction and the urban technologies, the idea that you want all of us to remember, to keep with ourselves after this panel, and to bring with ourselves, and either to put it in action or to work on that, or, you know, to proceed building our technologies or investing into technologies, having that in mind. So can we start with you, Chin?
Oh, yeah, all right. Yeah, I think key thing to keep in mind is that 60% of the cities have not yet been built. So by 2050, our cities, so there is a huge portion of cities that right now will be built. So key thing to understand is to build it in the correct way, build it to be sustainable and to be able to capture carbon. That for me would be the key takeaway. And I think I kind of agree with the point about actually conserving the natural carbon sinks and natural sort of wildernesses around the city, because that's something that I don't think we discuss enough, but that's also going to be a large component in making sure that the future cities are, you know, truly sustainable and truly be able to sort of capture and store the carbon that is necessary for us to maintain the 1.5 degree target.
Thank you for that one. Dominique.
Yeah, so I fully agree, because there is a part of the world where we have already cities and we can retrofit them, and that's key, that we have to be really taking as less material as possible. We can't do in our cities new and demolish. It's not legal. We can't do that. It's no more, the construction can't be anymore seen as Lego that we can demolish, and it's not possible. And on the other hand, there are many cities that are growing, and that's where we have to find the strategies to build with more information within the material, with more information within the structures, in order to reduce actually the content of material that is used. So that's what I call taking really care. And when you take care, you put attention, you put information, you are really taking care of what you build. It can't be anymore like just an industrial process. It has really to be information within the structures, and we have the possibilities with data. And I found that interesting, that you can take care with data. The think it looks antagonist, but I think we can really take care of what is existing. We can really take care of our environment just by putting all those data together, because they are informing actually the material that we put in place, and that's critical to our future.
I think that's a good one, to leverage data that we have already, the information that we have. We started from the information and education, and I think that it's like we are coming to the closure with the same idea, that having the information, it's so important, but also it's important to act on it, right, in the right way. So Lusine, would you please
I would add
answer?
shortly that I think that to win this battle, we have to do that together as companies and individuals as well. So starting from, for example, waste to energy and, as you mentioned, construction and transportation, but also, for example, developing urban farming on our balconies. Small step, but that can help reducing, or planting more trees, but like not just offsetting the carbon, but really planting more parks and trees and everything. So I think this is the key, like to work together, not just wait until someone will solve this problem.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that these small steps, right? These small steps, they matter, and the small steps, they actually start the journey. So that's a really good one. I see that we have an increased audience here, so maybe we have some questions, because we have a couple of minutes left. Today we have a couple of minutes left for the questions, and I think that that's great. We have a great crowd here, and I think nice insights to share. So let's use this opportunity if you have any questions about the topic we are discussing on the carbon emission reduction and the urban tech advancement.
Yes, exactly. We have 2 minutes, so
Yes.
if anyone would like to ask a question, if not, I will. Anyone? Right, so you mentioned together as a big word, obviously. For matters of this size, scale and importance always matters. But if you were to scale where we are around this topic on a scale from 0 to 10, where 0 is we are just keeping up appearances, and 10 is we're doing enough, we are in the right place, where are we?
We are, where are we as we, or as a planet,
around
or
the
as a
topic
country?
we're talking about.
Yeah,
How
yeah,
much
but-
how much have we achieved already? Are we is the pace of things the right one, or do you think a lot more needs to be done, a lot faster, stronger?
Yeah, I think, yeah, you would share in that one.
0 to 10.
0.25, if that's an answer.
So appearances. We are living in the world of appearances, pretending.
There is a lot more has to be done, and there's a lot of things that have to be done now. That's kind of the thing. What we have seen in usually is like there's a tendency to, push things out. So plans for 2035, 2040, 2050, right? So we need much more urgent and
Thank you. That's a
immediate
very,
planning.
very brave opinion, I would say. An important voice. How about the rest of you?
I will put it at 2, because the awareness is there. I think if you were talking about a few years ago, nobody would have been thinking about carbon capture, or people would have thought, okay, what is that? But now I think the fact that carbon capture has to be a part of the equation, not the only one, because everybody that is saying that it will be the only one are, just saying it's not possible, because it can't be as much as that. But it's a part of the equation, and we have to work on it. And it has to combine it with the other action. I think that's where it is key. But we are still at this stage too, because there were a lot of things that were said about it, and now we have to build the right awareness on the right strategies. Is it in agriculture, or it will be in construction? There are several possibilities, but we are at this stage about awareness and bringing it as a positive idea in our fight for global warming. And it's and I think it's just at this stage too. Otherwise, I would have put it at zero.
Very interesting. You should say that. So between the lines, you're saying that there is not enough pressure around this topic, regardless of where the pressure is coming from, whether it's bottom up or top down. How about the rest of you?
I would say 1.
Wow.
It's just, it's not about pressure, I think. We have put really ambitious targets, And initially, I think we know that we will never achieve that. For example, 2050.
You've put ambitious targets far in the distance, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to be realistic, not just write something on the paper, as I mention all the time. 2050, it's not visible, but I agree that we are on the stage that more or less we know more, and we talk about that more. Europe and the US mainly, and United Kingdom.
Wow.
But the other world, I mean, even the biggest players on the market, they do their business outside of, let's say, EU and US, and so
Precisely.
yeah,
Yes.
we have to count
So,
that as well.
without pressure, without much pressure, Anna, now that we are somewhere between 0.25, 2, and 1, where does your courage take you?
Yeah, so I would agree with my colleagues here about the it's like emerging, yet emerging. So it's not far away. I wouldn't go further than 2 as well, because we see even with how many attention is driven to that on the level of like more informal discussions. Because formal discussions, like people gathering at economic forum, etc., that's important. But that's it's usually talks not put into action. But I think that this kind of conference is already a step forward, because here we have people actually doing things with their hands, building technologies that are already maybe small steps, maybe like progress higher, lower, etc. So I think we definitely are moving there, but a lot is to be done, and I think that we discussed how it could be done, but I think we are still in this emerging stage. But it's good. It means that we have a lot in front of us, right? And
Always good
work.
to close with a positive, optimistic thought, isn't it?
Excellent.
Anna, thank you very much. Dear
Thank you.
panelists, thank you very much for
you.
joining
Thank
us
you.
here at Urban Tech Forward. Thank you.
Thank you.